Alright guys, Arnie was cut from Predator Badlands, believe it or not. We've also got some reveals, or at least discussions, about a female Yautja, Deck's mom, the design anyway. Quite unconventional is what they're planning to do, it seems. We've got an interview with the director Dan Trachtenberg with Screen Rant, and he revealed some interesting bits and pieces. So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff cut from Predator Badlands, namely some cameos. The Xenomorph, in fact, was cut. Arnold, etc. And then, like I said, some design teases for the female Yautja, Deck's mother. So, shall we get to things that were cut first? Yes, I think we shall. I'll hit subscribe if you're new here as well. I haven't said that for a while. Thank you to everyone who has. Really appreciate it, genuinely. So, this is just an interview with Screen Rant, and it was quite interesting, I think. So, they sat down with Screen Rant, or he sat down with Screen Rant, because it's on home video. The release of Predator Badlands, all on home video now. And basically, they asked him, when asked about the movie's surprise appearance of Disney legend Naru, because she was in Predator Badlands, just briefly. She's briefly shown in the orange mist that comes up when Deck is trying to find a creature to kill to prove himself honourable. Anyway, the director revealed that the Prey heroine wasn't the only major franchise character who nearly had a cameo in the film. So with the original draft and temporary visual effects, including both Arnold Schwarzenegger's Dutch and Alien's Xenomorph, it's a pretty major thing, actually. They were going to go all the way in connecting it. So he said this. They had a longer conversation, Deck and Quay, his brother. Or they said the same idea of pick your planet and all that stuff. But it was a little bit longer. So there were more holograms to be in the background. And what we have now is more soft focus in the foreground. You kind of see it and all that. So he said, the thing we haven't gotten in all the great sci-fi we've enjoyed over the years is its creatures. It's their movie. That's it. No humans. And then I had other cool thoughts for what Naru could do in the future and was like, oh, that'd be awesome for that. But I could feel it. There's definitely a version where you find Naru on that planet and she has to survive and they meet. I could see that version, and I didn't want to spend all the chips right away. So that's just discussing that anyway, in terms of some future potential ideas. But basically, and this is what they said, you know, there was an idea, a version of Badlands that had a more direct appearance from Naru. Again, because she was in there, just in that CGI fluff. And said it was more the opposite, as he felt that while Deck and Naru team up was possible, that's not the thing we haven't seen. We've seen a Yautja team up with a human before, as seen in Alien vs Predator. But in terms of where the Xenomorph and Dutch went, basically the scene got truncated, is the direct quote, to the point that audiences could barely see any of the characters, as the dialogue-heavy scene was trimmed down. However, they still tried to keep as much as they could, as Trachtenberg and his creative team wanted to nod to our favourite characters that the Predators have fought against over the years. So that's kind of cool. I think that's kind of cool. So that's cool. Again, the scene in question of Naru's Predator Badlands cameos towards the start of the film, in which Deck and his brother Quay are discussing the former's options for where to carry out his first hunt. Situated in Quay's ship, the pair sort through historical scans of various planets throughout the galaxy, in which a hologram shows them considering Earth, and a brief appearance of Amber Midthunder's character Naru appears. So that's kind of cool. Nice little nod, I think. So that's fine. But here's the interesting thing. And so this they've titled it Deck's Mom's Design and Introduction in Predator Badlands sequel teased by Dan Trachtenberg. So the actual design itself isn't teased, but it's what he alludes to is what you can extrapolate from that, right? That's what's important. So, in an interview with Screen Rant, blah, 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 for its home, media release, he's offered some insight on what's to come for Deck's mum after Predator Badlands, acknowledging that a female Yautja has never been in a film before, having only, quote, been portrayed in the comics. The director said that he and his production team haven't quite gotten into design planning yet, as he is currently focusing on what her introduction should be character-wise. Now, this is interesting because he's acknowledging how female Yautja look in the comics, which 9 times out of 10 they are like bigger than the male predators. They're bigger than the male Yautjas, and they're more sort of ferocious, and they're just gross and nasty. There has been 1 or 2 where they're basically just normal, right, with like boobage and things, but 9 times out of 10 they're huge and they're like beasts. So that's important to note, because if he's acknowledging the comics, we can extrapolate that it's not going to be that. When he says basically, Deck's mom introduction would be a little unexpected. He doesn't want to avoid, well, he does want to, sorry, avoid the tropes as much as possible. And he says that her appearance in a Predator Badlands sequel will be more intentional and focused on the cool of what the Yautja culture can bring to the screen. He also indicated that he and his team might not be pulling straight from how they've been rendered in the comics, and instead go their own route. So, not massive. Maybe a bit of boobage, which is seemingly what some people like to sort of do fan art of. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. And they say this. Trachtenberg notes female Yautja have been seen in other media, namely the various comics and novels that have expanded the lore of the franchise. That being said, the only apparent canonical entry to feature the female Yautja is that of Predator Hunting Grounds, where the multiplayer action game allows players the option to take on such a hunter as they square off against other players. So, very interesting. Doesn't look like it will be a big beastie. Right? Well, maybe it is. Who knows? Still kind of left it open there to a degree, because, of course, they've been depicted many ways. But I thought this was interesting. So, Arnold Schwarzenegger was in Predator Badlands. Teased, anyway. And female Yautja, it's looking like we will be getting that if he comes back to the franchise. What do you think? Leave me your thoughts down below.